where you can install a motherboard inside the Thermaltake Dokker mid-tower case. First, install the motherboard standoffs. Now there are 9 standoffs in total provided in the accessory package, so just make sure to install them all in the mounting guides provided. When mounting a power supply inside the Thermaltake Dokker mid-tower case, make sure to put the ventilation fan facing downwards. The Thermaltake Dokker is very spacious when installing an aftermarket CPU heatsink, and it actually supports CPU heatsinks up to 162 millimeters tall. There's also a lot of clearance for GPU area. As you can see, we managed to fit an HD6990 inside the Thermaltake Dokker without any clearance issues. Installing an external 5¼ inch or an optical drive inside the Thermaltake Dokker is actually very easy because there are these toolless mounting options. First, you have to take out the appropriate drive bay cover. So just take out your front panel, select which of your drive bay covers you need to remove. For example, this second from the top right here, and simply push the latches on each side while pushing the drive bay cover in. I can actually place it back, and to simply unlock these mounting options, you just move it upward like that and pull, and now you can slide in your optical drive, place, make sure the mounting holes are aligned, and replace the lock. Unfortunately, because of the hard drive docking bay on top of the Thermaltake Dokker, the topmost 5¼ inch external drive bay cannot be used. As you can see, the base, not just the cables of the hard drive docking bay, are in the way for installing an optical drive. Installing 3.5 inch hard drives inside the Thermaltake Dokker requires the use of the same toolless mounting mechanism found on the 5¼ inch drive base. As you can see, you can just unlock it, pick it out, slide in your 3.5 inch hard drive in place, and make sure the mounting holes aligned. And just simply put it back in and lock. As for mounting 2.5 inch or SSD drives, there is a small area right above the 3.5 inch external mounting area. Alright, now we have our components assembled. Let us analyze just how efficient the cable management is on the Thermaltake Dokker mid-tower case. And as you can see, we used a non-modular power supply, so we actually stored the extra cables right underneath the hard drive base. And unfortunately, if you do this, you will not be able to install the optional 120mm fan right underneath, or the optional 80mm fan right underneath for the hard drive base. Now, this is not an issue for most people, as if you install the 120mm intake fan in the front, that is plenty of ventilation already. And you can also see that the front panel connectors, the cables, these are the flat ones for the front panel audio, and the USB are actually quite long. It's more than enough to reach whether your motherboard has the front panel audio connector in the lower left hand corner or right in the middle. So that's very good. So one thing I liked about it. And it's a little bit of a clutter. So you can see the 8-pin power connector has been routed to the back of the video card, since there is no cable routing area right to the back. And let's actually flip the Thermaltake Dokker to the other side and see what the cable management area looks like from there. At the back of the motherboard, the space is very narrow. There's about ½ an inch of clearance here, but you can't really route a power supply cable in there, since as you can see, the 24-pin power cable is very thick. But the good thing is that they used thin cables for your USB or your HD audio cable, so you can actually route it underneath here right beside the power supply. But no need for that, since what the Thermaltake is provided are very long cables, so there's enough slack to route, can connect it to your motherboard without routing it to the closest routing hole. And as you can see, the provided CPU cutout is very big and provides enough clearance for our backplate. And unfortunately, there's no mounting hole here at the top throughout our EPS 8-pin 12-volt connector for our power supply. So you have to route it, as I showed earlier, to the back of your video card. There's actually space here for enough to move around, have connection. There's about the same clearance, ½ inch clearance from the right side panel to the 5 1/4 inch drive base, but there is about 2 or 2.5 inches clearance from the right side panel to the 3.5 inch drive base. So there's more space here. You can store extra cables here if you don't want to store your extra power supply cables underneath. So you can use an optional fans underneath there. You can just store them here to the right side panel. Now I'd suggest to, if you notice that I actually used one of the locking mechanisms here to secure the hard drive. It's because if I didn't do that, it will only have lock on one side and it wobbles a bit. So what I did was, since I only have one hard drive installed, I took one extra one and installed it here to the side. So you can see the hard drive is much more secure. Now let's put in the panel and let's fire up the system so you can see what the LEDs and how loud the included 120mm fan is.